Good evening, and welcome to Third Church of Christ Scientist of New York City. Let's begin the meeting with singing hymn number 67. I'll read the third verse. Hear, above all, hear thy Lord, him thou lovest to obey. Hide within thy heart his word. Watch and pray. Number 67. I'll read from the Bible and the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, by Mary Baker Eddy. The topic of this evening's readings is watchfulness. The Bible, Nehemiah. And it came to pass in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was before him. And I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence. Wherefore the king said unto me, Why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, Let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, For what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven, and I said unto the king, If it please the king, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, For how long shall thy journey be? And when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Then I came to the governors beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. And the rulers knew not whither I went or what I did, neither had I as yet told it to the Jews, nor to the priests, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work. Then said I unto them, Ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire, Come, and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more a reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite, and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arabian heard it, they laughed us to scorn, and despised us, and said, What is this thing that ye do? Will ye rebel against the king? Then answered I them, and said unto them, The God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build. But ye have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our God, and set a watch against them day and night because of them. But it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up and that the breaches began to be stopped, then they were very wroth and conspired, all of them together, to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it. Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our God, and set a watch against them day and night because of them. And our adversaries said, They shall not know neither see till we come in the midst among them, and slay them, and cause the work to cease. Therefore set I in the lower places behind the wall, and on the higher places I even set the people after their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows. And I looked, and rose up, and said unto the nobles, and to the rulers, and to the rest of the people, Be not ye afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. And it came to pass, when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. They which builded on the wall, and they that bare burdens, with those that laded, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon. Now it came to pass, when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arabian and the rest of our enemies heard that I had builded the wall, and that there was no breach left therein, though at that time I had not yet set up the doors upon the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me mischief. And I sent messengers unto them, saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease, whilst I leave it and come down to you? Yet they sent unto me 4 times after this sort, and I answered them after the same manner. Then sent Sanballat his servant unto me in like manner the 5th time, with an open letter in his hand, wherein was written, It is reported among the heathen, and Gashmu saith it, that thou and the Jews think to rebel, for which cause thou buildest the wall, that thou mayest be their king, according to these words. Then I sent unto him, saying, There are no such things done as thou sayest, but thou feignest them out of thine own heart. So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month Elul, in 52 days. And it came to pass that when all our enemies heard thereof, and all the heathen that were about us saw these things, they were much cast down in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was wrought of our God. Psalms. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Matthew. Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you. But go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came. And they that were ready went in with him to the marriage. And the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. Mark, what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. And I'll read correlative passages from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. Prayer, watching, and working, combined with self-immolation, are God's gracious means for accomplishing whatever has been successfully done for the Christianization and health of mankind. In order to pray aright, we must enter into the closet and shut the door. we must close the lips and silence the material senses. In the quiet sanctuary of earnest longings, we must deny sin and plead God's allness. We must resolve to take up the cross and go forth with honest hearts to work and watch for wisdom, truth, and love. We must pray without ceasing. Such prayer is answered insofar as we put our desires into practice. The Master's injunction is that we pray in secret and let our lives attest our sincerity. Christians rejoice in secret beauty and bounty, hidden from the world, but known to God. Self-forgetfulness, purity, and affection are constant prayers. Practice, not profession. Understanding, not belief, gain the ear and right hand of omnipotence, and they assuredly call down infinite blessings. Individuals are consistent who, watching and praying, can run and not be weary, walk and not faint, who gain good rapidly and hold their position, or attain slowly and yield not to discouragement. God requires perfection, but not until the battle between spirit and flesh is fought and the victory won. To stop eating, drinking, or being clothed materially before the spiritual facts of existence are gained step by step is not legitimate. When we wait patiently on God and seek truth righteously, He directs our path. Imperfect mortals grasp the ultimate of spiritual perfection slowly. But to begin aright and to continue the strife of demonstrating the great problem of being is doing much. Stand, porter, at the door of thought. Admitting only such conclusions as you wish realized in bodily results, you will control yourself harmoniously. When the condition is present which you say induces disease, whether it be air, exercise, heredity, contagion, or accident, then perform your office as porter and shut out these unhealthy thoughts and fears. Exclude from mortal mind the offending errors, then the body cannot suffer from them. The issues of pain or pleasure must come through mind. And like a watchman forsaking his post, we admit the intruding belief, forgetting that through divine help we can forbid this entrance. The body seems to be self-acting only because mortal mind is ignorant of itself, of its own actions, and of their results, ignorant that the predisposing, remote, and exciting cause of all bad effects is a law of so-called mortal mind, not of matter. Mind is the master of the corporeal senses and can conquer sickness, sin, and death. Exercise this God-given authority. Take possession of your body and govern its feeling and action. Rise in the strength of spirit to resist all that is unlike good. God has made man capable of this, and nothing can vitiate the ability and power divinely bestowed on man. Be firm in your understanding that the divine mind governs, and that in science, man reflects God's government. Evil thoughts and aims reach no farther and do no more harm than one's belief permits. Evil thoughts, lusts, and malicious purposes cannot go forth like wandering pollen from one human mind to another, finding unsuspected lodgment, if virtue and truth build a strong defense. Be watchful, sober, and vigilant. The way is straight and narrow, which leads to the understanding that God is the only life. It is a warfare with the flesh in which we must conquer sin, sickness, and death, either here or hereafter, certainly before we can reach the goal of spirit or life in God. We should become more familiar with good than with evil and guard against false beliefs as watchfully as we bar our doors against the approach of thieves and murderers. We should love our enemies and help them on the basis of the Golden Rule, but avoid casting pearls before those who trample them underfoot, thereby robbing both themselves and others. If mortals would keep proper ward over mortal mind, the brood of evils which infest it would be cleared out. We must begin with this so-called mind and empty it of sin and sickness, or sin and sickness will never cease. The present codes of human systems disappoint the weary searcher after a divine theology adequate to the right education of human thought. And we solemnly promise to watch and pray for that mind to be in us, which was also in Christ Jesus, to do unto others as we would have them do unto us, and to be merciful, just, and pure. Let's pray silently together for a few moments and then pray aloud the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Let's sing hymn number 99. He that hath God his guardian made shall underneath the Almighty's shade fearless and undisturbed abide. Thus to myself of him I'll say, he is my fortress, shield, and stay, my God. In him I will confide. Number 99. This church is a branch of the Mother Church, the First Church of Christ Scientist in Boston, Massachusetts. We hold Sunday services at 11 in the morning and Wednesday testimony meetings at 7:30 in the evening. We also have services in Spanish, Sundays at 1 p.m. and Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. All services are held online and in person, and all are welcome. Third Church offers Sunday school classes online and in person for children and teens. These free one-hour classes are available each Sunday. At Sunday school, students learn how much God loves them and cares for them. They also learn about the Bible characters and lessons and the healing power of prayer. For more information on times and classes, please send us an email, thirdchurch@thirdchurchnyc.com. Third Church maintains a reading room on the lower level of this building. The reading room provides a quiet place for prayer and study, and all are welcome. Here you may purchase books and recordings on Christian Science. The reading room has the latest issues of the Christian Science Monitor, an award-winning international news weekly available to read or to purchase. Reading room hours are Monday through Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. I'll read from the Manual of the Mother Church by Mary Baker Eddy, Article 8, Section 24, titled Testimonials. Glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's, St. Paul. Testimony in regard to the healing of the sick is highly important. More than a mere rehearsal of blessings, it scales the pinnacle of praise and illustrates the demonstration of Christ, who healeth all thy diseases. Psalm 103:3. This testimony, however, shall not include a description of symptoms or of suffering, though the generic name of the disease may be indicated. This bylaw applies to testimonials which appear in the periodicals and to those which are given at the Wednesday evening meeting. Christian Science is practical and it heals. Our meeting is now open for all to share experiences of healing and spiritual insights that prove God's ever-presence and power in their lives. If you are listening by telephone and would like to speak, press *6 and wait until your line is unmuted. Please speak directly into the microphone of your phone. Your message will be easier to hear if you do not use the speaker function. If you're watching via Zoom, you can choose the raise your hand icon or unmute yourself and speak.
I always appreciate the story of the building of the wall. There's a very good article by Carolyn E. Holte, I think, called Portion Right Memorial. It may be in one of those compilations of top Christian Science articles. When we're handling aggressive mental suggestion, animal magnetism, error, human resistance to God's work, whether it be in our individual lives, in our community, in our church, etc., it's been helpful to me to know that that error has no portion. Sometimes we're happy when the portion it claims is less, and that's right, but it has no portion in divine consciousness and divine purpose. It has no right whatsoever. Mortal mind, alias the devil, alias limited thinking, temporal thinking, mere human motives, has no right to impair, interfere, disrupt God's work in terms of health, the health of our bodies, the health of our consciousness, of our relationships, our supply, church, etc. And it has no memorial. It can't hold on to man, to spiritual consciousness, by saying something happened in the past and it's sticking around, and now what seemed like a good idea in the past is troubling us. It has no memorial, no ability to cause faulty memory, faulty functioning. Of course, these things need to be demonstrated, and as in the story, our resolve needs to exceed the aggressive mental suggestion that God is not on the field, that we are not capable, that error is stronger than truth, that mind is both evil and good, and evil predominates, which of course is the definition of animal magnetism in science and health. So I was grateful to hear that story, grateful for that article. I've gone to it several times in the past couple of years. And grateful that these stories from the Old Testament, New Testament, are always relevant. Thank you for your readings.
Thank you for those lovely readings, and especially the hymns. And in the glossary, Mrs. Eddy tells us, or in the glossary it's given that the definition for oil is consecration, charity, gentleness, prayer, and heavenly inspiration. And I've often thought those are the 5 wise virgins. And the 5 foolish virgins are the lack of those, the opposite of those qualities. That consecration, charity, gentleness, prayer, heavenly inspiration are the wonderful 5 wise virgins. The hymn tonight, the second hymn, it's not quite on topic, but I can't but help recall my experience when I was in Vietnam. And what was involved there. I found myself on a mountaintop in Vietnam on Ho Chi Minh's birthday. And the enemy troops were going to celebrate his birthday by overrunning the entire Central Highlands. And we were completely surrounded by a battalion of enemy troops. And we were just a small group of men. Every night they tried to overrun us. It was a little bit like you see it in the movies many times. And indeed, it was a desperate situation. And very much like the 91st Psalm. There's nowhere you can go. You can't hide, you can't go anywhere. All you can do is know the truth. And at the time, we didn't have the Full Text Quarterly back then, and I didn't even have marked books. All I had was a small copy of Bible and Science and Health, Serviceman's Edition, and the Quarterly, and you have plenty of time, so you look up each citation. And I read the lesson that week. We had lost a lot of men a week or two before, and I just worked with that. And the lesson was ancient and modern necromancy, alias mesmerism and hypnotism denounced. And it was all about war and protection. I had never read a lesson like this before, where it was all about being protected, like the 91st Psalm. And I thought, my word, this is the hottest place on the earth right now. I'm the only Christian Scientist in my unit here. This lesson was prepared probably 6-9 months previously, and it was prepared just for me at that moment. It was amazing. It was a Monday. I forget. I never forget. It was a Monday. I just read it. This lesson was prepared just for me. Talk about watchfulness. There was a higher power watching. Well, I read the lesson, and I was in a small two-man bunker. And the way it worked was the enemy would hit us with rockets and mortars, and they would set the fuse back so that it wouldn't go off immediately on impact. It would drop through the sandbags and go off inside so it could inflict the maximum damage. And that had gone on for a week or so before. Well, we started getting hit again. And all I did was, I had finished the lesson. I'm just going to lie down, and I'm just going to calm my thought. And I'm just going to know the truth. And I turned over and laid on my stomach and knew the truth. And there was a round that hit right outside our door. And the other fellow I shared the bunker with said, "Gee, that was close." Well, the very next one hit our bunker. And usually, that's it. You're dead if you take a direct hit. I got lifted up and put down. This bunker is filled with dust, and but I was completely protected. My buddy, who was just an arm's reach away, was severely wounded. And I got a medic very quickly. We got him down to the helicopter out of there. And but I went back and looked where it hit. And I looked at where there was a bag of dirty laundry at my foot. There were C-ration cans at my head. The laundry at the foot was riddled with shrapnel. The C-ration cans at my head had been broken up with shrapnel, but I was completely protected. And I remember reading in that lesson, it finally said, "Clad in the panoply of love, human hatred cannot reach you." Clad. And I realized at the time that hit, I was simply knowing the truth. I was dealing with a wonderful practitioner here at the time in the United States, and he said, "You have to love the enemy." And that's what I was doing. I was wonderful thing in Paul Stark Seeley's article, "Neither Villain Nor Victim." It's a pair event. You can't have one without the other. You can't have a villain without a victim and vice versa. But if we refuse to see a villain, we can never be a victim. The trick is to work from that standpoint. It's no more true about the villain than it is about the victim. There's our protection, and that was my protection. Thank you very much for the readings tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for the readings tonight. I was thinking about watchfulness, and lately it's occurred to me that watch and pray doesn't mean I'm watching everyone else's thoughts, but I'm watching what's coming into my own consciousness and my thoughts, or what's coming at me masquerading as my own thoughts. That's really animal magnetism that needs to be cast out. And I think that's something that is just part of this work. There's a lot of definitions of animal magnetism, and when I was really new in Christian Science, and even a couple of years ago when I came back to it and I was really grasping hold of it, I felt confused by that definition. When you look in the back in the glossary and definition of evil or the definition of error, and it just seems like such a huge definition. I remember thinking that it was sort of overwhelming. It seemed to stand for so many things, and I think the way that I've seen it, that makes the most sense to me is that, we know animal magnetism is mortal mind, and it's basically, to me, boiled down in its to its common denominator is idolatry, is a form of idolatry, just a belief in a power other than God, a power that can exist either alongside of God or, despite God, or that has more power than him or is equal to him, or there's something going on in thinking and thought that's a claim of another power or another presence, like the last testifier mentioned about the article, the villain and the victim, that there's just another source than good. And I found that challenge of watching those thoughts and what are they reflecting God? Are they reflecting mortal mind thoughts? Am I accepting them, or am I reversing them? I remember a practitioner said to me, whatever we're not reversing, we're accepting. So it's one or the other. And when I first started working with these claims of animal magnetism that were going on in my experience, a practitioner said, you need to claim that God is your mind. Mind can't be influenced by anything but God. God is all and God is mind. And that seemed so abstract, but I thought, and I was just desperate enough that I could get past all the mortal mind thinking, and I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to declare it, and I'm just going to keep working with it. And I remember I had read an article, and I wish I could remember exactly the name of this article, but it talked about how we don't have to begin the process of healing by having 100% belief, that we can sort of begin where we are, and that, faith and understanding just grows. And I really clung to that, and I clung to the story of, the woman who was healed of the issue of blood, that she just touched the border of Christ's garment, and that was enough. She didn't have to wrap the whole garment around herself. She just touched the border, and that's how powerful God is. And I just kept declaring that and working with that concept, and it did. My understanding grew, and it became something that was, not abstract at all, and that made complete sense, and became a part of my work, and that was very incredibly healing in so many ways. So I'm so grateful for Christian Science, and for all of the teachings that were left by Christ Jesus about watching and praying without ceasing is, definitely going on in my experience all the time. And so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that story of Nehemiah. What stands out to me this evening about that story is that Nehemiah was coming to Jerusalem with letters from the king and to build a wall. When he spoke to the people, when he refuted the detractors that would pull him down away from that wall, he said, the God of our fathers shall cause our work to succeed, words to that effect. And when he had completed the work, and his enemies, those that would detract him and take him away, were much cast down because they perceived that God had caused this great work to be done. It's interesting because he didn't say, look, you guys, the king authorized me to do this, and I've got letters to prove it. It wasn't a legal argument. It was a faithful, it was a consciousness of God's presence and power. That sense of God's presence and power is what gives us the faith in God's presence and power, lifts us and lets us go higher. When I read an article that's maybe a year ago that's been with me in the back of my thought pretty consistently, and that is that the writer was saying that he thought, what should he do with his life? Should he do this, or he could become a practitioner? But then he'd have to be thinking about God all the time. and he really he had it right. And to be thinking about God all the time. There's a phrase that say, let people see your good works and praise God. And that's a sense of witnessing for God. We demonstrate the principle, but it's God that heals the sin, the sickness, and disease. We'd say we're healers. We heal in the sense that we apply the principles, and we lift our thinking. We follow the teachings of Jesus. When he says you have to enter the kingdom of heaven as little children, I think that means we have to be conscious of the perfect parent, the one that's all knowing, all seeing, all acting, all wise, and all loving, and become more aware of the activity of God in our lives, and the power and the efficacy, the omnipresence of that in our daily lives and in our work. I'm very grateful for Christian Science, for Christianity, for the works of Jesus, the writings of Mary Baker Eddy, all these things. It was mentioned that Nehemiah said to his detractors, "You have no portion or right in Jerusalem." What is our portion and right? That's a very legal thing. Inheritance back then would be land. You know, you own it from metes and bounds. The portion is what part of the land was yours, and to what did you have the right. Well, inheritance of land is a sort of a materialistic concept. So what's the spiritual concept of our portion? What's our right? And Mrs. Eddy's works are all about teaching people their spiritual rights, and saying that God is the only cause and creator, that our inheritance is spiritual, and our inheritance are the books, the laws, that the scriptures set forth, that teach us how to bring our thoughts in accord with God, and to entertain the angels. This is the activity, the growth, the teachings, the school of Christianity, for which I'm very grateful.
Thank you. And thank you all for your testimonies, your insights, your remarks, your prayers, and your presence at this lovely meeting. We'll conclude with singing hymn number 130. It's based on Psalm 36, and I'll read both verses. How wondrous is thy mercy, Lord! How faithful is thy kindness! Thou gavest the treasure of thy word. That word dispels all blindness. Thou holdest all things in thy sight, for in thy presence is no night, and in thy light shall we see light. Thy judgments are a mighty deep, thy wisdom past all seeking. Thou watchest when we lie asleep. We trust us to thy keeping. Thy love doth every blessing shower. It rests alike on man and flower. The whole creation owns thy power. Number 130.